Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So within today's video, I do want to speak about exactly how Barcelona should be moving forward. Like when it comes to what players should be out, we are going to be discussing exactly that. When it comes to what players we should be developing for the rest of this season, we are going to be talking about those specific players. And then within the last phase, I want to talk about exactly what Barcelona should be focusing on when it comes to the tournaments ahead. Liga, the Copa del Rey, and also the Spanish Super Cup. Because here's the thing, right? When it does come to the match between Barcelona and Bayern Munich, there is really nothing to speak on. It was a flat, dead performance. I wanted Barcelona to come out with 110%, but this club, these players, they had different plans. When I saw Barcelona go down 1-0, I understood that yes, maybe these players found it extremely hard to be inspired to come back and maybe try to win 2-1, because maybe they were saying, okay, for what? Like, why are we going to be trying? Why are we going to try and score 2 goals and win and then potentially get injured? And especially for a match where we're not going to be gaining anything, whether we win 5-0 or 10-0, we will still be out in the end. So I have understanding, but again, the Barcelona side of me really wanted to come out with a win and represent Barcelona in the correct way. But like I've said, really nothing to show for, and now we just have to move on from there and focus on the game against Valencia, which will be happening on Saturday, a game that is actually going to be mattering for these players. But before we go into any of this, I do want to speak about our sponsor for today, and that is going to be the OneFootball app. If you guys want to find out where I do get my information when it comes to the stats, the lineups, all of that is compact within the OneFootball app. It's where I do get my source of information to build these videos. Within the OneFootball app, you can find great articles. You can read the stats of certain players, the stats of certain teams. It's a very informative app that I believe you guys would greatly enjoy. If you do want to download the OneFootball app, you can so by going down on the link below. It'll take you straight to the App Store. You download the OneFootball app. It said exactly who and what you do want to follow, whether it's Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester City, Atletico Madrid, Liverpool. All of that is going to be covered for you immediately and live on your phone for free. So thank you, OneFootball, for supporting a content creator. But now let's go back into this video and let's talk about how Barcelona should be moving forward, because many have been talking about Barcelona when it comes to like how much of a failure Xavi Hernandez is for this club. Like that is the only thing we are going to be hearing for the next 2 or 3 weeks. You're going to be hearing many YouTube channels say that Xavi Hernandez is a failure, many Twitter accounts saying that Xavi Hernandez is not the correct coach for Barcelona, many IG accounts like ESPN, Bleacher Report basically shame Xavi Hernandez onto the ground. So they are going to be taking great advantage of what Barcelona is going through and basically have an agenda, right? Have an agenda to make us believe that Xavi Hernandez is not the correct coach. When in the end, you and me do know that it does take time to build a team like this. Pep Guardiola was not so successful within his first full season with Manchester City. The same thing went with Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. It does take time to build a big, sustainable dynasty, and especially within FC Barcelona. But let's move on towards point number 1 on what veterans we should expect to see out for the rest of this season, and that is going to be Sergio Busquets, Gerard Piqué, Jordi Alba, and Sergi Roberto. Now, let's make one thing very clear when it comes to these 4 players. Xavi Hernandez really does not rely on these players like at all. And if you guys are asking, then why do these players continue to play? Well, that is because in the past 6 games, we have lost so many players due to injuries where we had no other alternatives. We were forced to use Piqué. We were forced to use Jordi Alba, Sergi Roberto, and many more. Like, let's look at the beginning of this season. Xavi Hernandez desperately wanted Jordi Alba and Gerard Piqué away from his image of Barcelona. Like, we did not see them the first few weeks. And then in the beginning of October, for one moment there, Xavi Hernandez was really keen on using Frenkie de Jong as the replacement of Sergio Busquets. So you can see that he was trying to put out the veterans slowly but surely. And then we saw Xavi Hernandez yet again attempt to take out Sergi Roberto through this season, because at one point, and again, you and me can agree because we have been seeing Barcelona many times and in every game, Xavi Hernandez was really going for Koundé as the right back and to be starting with Ronald Araujo and Christensen and then having Balde on the left back position. So the intentions were there. We saw Koundé in the right back position. Piqué and Jordi Alba were never seen in the first few weeks until the injuries. But again, these players continue to exist within this club when it comes to the veterans because of 2 things. One, because of the contract issues. We could not get rid of these players in the first place because it was too expensive. Point number 2, it was the injuries. Koundé got injured, Ronald Araujo got injured, Christensen got injured, and we were forced to use Sergio Roberto, Piqué, Jordi Alba at one point. Now the solution towards this and what we should be doing through this season is to, yes, just to maintain our level for the next 2 months until the January transfer window, and to wait for these players to fully return and to be fully healthy, and also sign a right back and a central defensive midfielder in January 2023. Now when it comes to this conversation here on who that could be, that's going to be for a whole other separate video, but yes, it is true that the main concern and the main areas that we should be strengthening in January, it is going to be the right back position and the central defensive midfield position. These are mandatory positions that Xavi Hernandez is going to be focusing on. Going on to point number 2 on what we should be focusing on for this season, and that is to develop 4 specific players. And I'm going to be explaining why exactly I want these 4 players to be extremely developed. Dembele, Gavi, and Alejandro Balde with Frankie de Jong. When it comes to Dembele, I think that Dembele is going to be staying here much longer than expected. He does look committed on and off the pitch. He is our best attacker. Without Dembele, there really is no attack. And there has been many moments through this season where Dembele almost looked like Messi, making those runs, making that final pass that splits the defense in half. Not many players out there in Europe can play like Dembele, which makes him very unique. And I think that eventually, within these next few months, Barcelona are going to be extending Dembele until 2027. That is going to be my prediction, to be at the same contract length of Ansu Fati, Pedri, Gavi, Araujo, and many more. The other one is going to be Gavi. Gavi should be another player that we have to focus on. There's a reason why he has won the Copa Trophy, the Golden Boy Trophy. His work rate, his aggression is outrageous at the age of 18 years old. I think that in 4 years, this player, if we continue to develop him in the correct way and consistently, he could be one of the captains for FC Barcelona. And I'm talking about 4 years from now, maybe 5 years from now, because I just love the way that Gavi likes to protect his players physically and mentally. He also likes to speak out. I remember when Rafinha was on the ground, there was like 2 players getting on top of Rafinha, and Gavi just puts himself in the middle and just says, "Don't touch my teammate, get away. Like, if you're gonna hurt Rafinha, hurt me first." So I do believe that what's gonna take Gavi into the top 5 best midfielders in the world, and we do not know when he's gonna hit that, but he will. But in order for him to get to that position would be for him to become much more of a creator, to be at the same level of Pedri in terms of creating in the final third, and to always look for the last pass. Because right now, if he just continues to be at the path that he is in and to extend his current traits, he'll be looking a lot like Modric. He'll be extremely world class in stealing the ball, intercepting the ball, anticipating where the ball is going to go. Gavi will be on his way to be someone like that. But if we continue to develop this player, add more characteristics, more traits, he will be one hell of a player. And I have a feeling, right, that in January, we're probably going to be bringing in Bernardo Silva, but I think that Gavi should be way more focused on, because Bernardo Silva would be a impact player more than a long-term player. If we can have a midfield of Bernardo Silva, Pedri, and Gavi going in the midfield, that would be amazing. I do not really want to see Xavi Hernandez say that we're going to be starting Pedri, Bernardo Silva, and Frankie de Jong, and then sit down Gavi, because Gavi, again, he is the future. Moving on towards the next player, and that is, again, like I've said, Balde. I do believe that it is official that this player will be our left back, and for many, many years. In the beginning, we were seeing him having glimpses of what he could be, right? So like when we saw that run against Manchester City, we're like, wow, Balde is going to be something special. But the main question at that time, we were like, okay, can he do this but at a high level and consistently? And ladies and gentlemen, yes, Balde has done exactly that. He has shown that he can do this consistently and at a very high level. And even when Barcelona's not playing well, Balde still shows up when he gets pressed in his own half. He makes the correct pass in order to get out from that press. He's always available to receive the ball from Pedri. His ability to do take-ons outside the box of the opposition is amazing, and he shows all the qualities that Jordi Alba could have never shown in the past 7 years. Alejandro Balde is looking much more of a Alphonso Davies than someone like Jordi Alba. And I remember there was this saying a few months ago where many were saying every time there is a youth player coming through the ranks, they always inspire to be that next player that they are going to be replacing. So for example, Gavi and Pedri, they look like they are inspired to replace what Xavi and Iniesta used to be. And when it comes to Ronald Araujo, many have inspired him to be just like Puyol, or maybe Ronald Araujo himself does inspire to be someone like him. But when it comes to Alejandro Balde, he never came into the first team and said, I'm inspired to be like Jordi Alba. Balde is painting his own path and somebody very exciting that we are going to be witnessing for the next few years. And then lastly, when it comes to Frankie de Jong, this has to be another player that we have to develop and focus on. He has been trying very hard to provide for this Barcelona team. Xavi has even called this player to once replace Sergio Busquets, and he has been delivering. Is he at the same level of Busquets when it comes to that role? No, but he is getting better and better. We have seen the performances already. There is no reason for this player to stop. And when we do see him within this position, he does get out of his own character and acts much more like Sergio Busquets, which is very interesting. He does wait for the ball. He never just comes in and tries to take the ball away and leave space behind him. He just waits in his area. He does cover the passing lanes very well, and every time he does receive the ball or intercept the ball, he releases the ball very, very quick, something that Busquets also likes to do. But when it comes to Frankie, knowing his profile, he usually does like to hold the ball. He has said multiple times he likes to have the ball as much as he can, but when it comes to that role, Xavi Hernandez is trying to make this player understand that he's going to have to function in a very different way, and he has been adapting to that. The only players that are welcome to carry the ball, to dribble the ball, to go past 2 to 3 players, it is going to come down to the interiors, which is Pedri and Gavi. When it comes to the pivot position, Xavi Hernandez does not want Frankie to do that. The only time we do see Frankie de Jong carrying the ball and making those long dribbles would be coming from deep areas. That is the only time Xavi Hernandez has allowed Frankie de Jong to make those long dribbles, is if they are literally just outside their own box and they're being pressured. So seeing how he can play in 2 different ways within that position, it makes Barcelona much more dynamic, and we do want to see much more of that. And so now let's move on towards the last phase of this video, which is going to be the third thing that Barcelona should be focusing on, and that is going to be La Liga. I know that there are doubts, right, that Barcelona may not win the league, but the season is very long, right? Let me paint you guys a picture. If Barcelona wins all of their games until the Clásico and Real Madrid do the exact same too, that one match at the Clásico, Barcelona is going to be hosting Real Madrid, which means that there is a great chance that Barcelona could win on that night and go above Real Madrid officially due to goal difference and be tied in points. And this is worst case scenario. This is again assuming that Real Madrid win all of their games until the Clásico and Barcelona also win all of their games until the Clásico. There is going to be a time, my friends, where Barcelona is going to have that moment, that game where they can claim the first position within the league. They're also going to be hosting Atletico Madrid, another game where Barcelona could win. That second half of the season that we are going to be having within the league, it is going to be in our favor. And I do believe that if Barcelona can just focus on the league and bring their A team, Xavi's main starting 11 during La Liga, and then having the B team or the C team focus on the Copa del Rey or the Spanish Super Cup, and we win these trophies, many will forget about the early exit that we had in the Champions League. I think that if we do win, even also the Europa League, the whole world would admire what Barcelona have done, and we have that in our hands. Again, our season is not over. So in a way, we could look at the bright side, right, and make a good thing out of a bad moment and say it's a good thing that Barcelona is out of the Champions League, because now they can rest their players, their A players, right, their starting 11, and put all of that within the league to make sure we lock that, and to have the second starting 11 or the B players or the C players focus on the other tournaments. And that way our most important players will not encounter any sort of big injury. So that is probably the only bright note that we could take away from this. Let's hope for a great season for this team. That is going to be wrapping up today's Barcelona daily news. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are new here, welcome to the channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys in the next video.